Trick question. Which is worse? Modern work culture or literal hell? Going Under definitely answers that question by proving that, without a doubt, modern work culture and perhaps capitalism as we know it has no equal within the dark depths of the underworld. If Satan and his minions do in fact exist, he assuredly has a hand in whatever world we occupy from the hours of 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. or 6 or 7 p.m. No lunch breaks. In Aggro Crab's expertly crafted roguelite Going Under, you play as Jacqueline, a college grad who's landed an unpaid internship at Fizzle,
a subsidiary of Cubicle.
Brought on to do marketing, Jackie is instead asked to take care of Fizzle's goblin problem. You see, Cubicle has acquired many startups over the years and most of them went under. So it's your job to go under and beat up the bosses of 3 failed startups. Don't ask too many questions, the boss asks you to do it, so just get to it. The game shares much of its structure with Hades, the critically acclaimed roguelite from developer Supergiant. Released in early access in December of 2018, Hades infuses the arcadey roguelite genre with story and loads of interesting characters. After each run, you're treated to new bits of dialogue from the large animated cast. Persistent currencies allow the player to purchase permanent upgrades, making subsequent runs easier. Hades was the next logical step for the genre. Instead of simply being another cult hit like Isaac or Gungeon, Hades went on to win multiple Game of the Year awards from large outlets like Eurogamer, Polygon, and IGN. All of this to say, Going Under is basically everything I just described. If you like Hades and you're familiar with hip office culture, you owe it to yourself to give it a shot. You know how roguelites are typically laid out like this? Well, Going Under is laid out like this. Each section of the dungeon is its own dungeon played independently. This solves the issue that I have with a lot of roguelites that I play the first and second level over and over again, like way more than the third or fourth level because I'm bad at the game. Like I can't tell you how many times I've seen the first and second level of Enter the Gungeon compared to just the rest of the game. Like I've played those levels way more than I have anything else. But in Going Under, you get to choose which dungeon you want to play, be it for quest purposes or simply because you want to play with a specific item. Speaking of which, the amount of ideas stuffed into these failed startups entertain me almost more than the actual gameplay. Each has their own theme that is used in maddeningly clever ways. The amount of times I stopped, stared at something, and said to myself, dude, this game is f***ing awesome. Outnumbers any game I've ever played. I couldn't stop stopping to take in and study all the little details, like the cool S symbol that's drawn on the desks of failed crypto startup Stixcoin. You know, like the river Styx. The doors of the dungeon are interlocking cool S's. The Stixcoin itself borrows its shape from the graffiti icon. But that's just one tiny example used in a bunch of cool ways throughout a level brimming with witty references and visuals. Discovering these things and experiencing them for yourself is totally the way to go. But I'd like to share with you the moment at which I told myself I had to review this game. Because the dungeons are separate levels, they each have their own appropriately themed shops. In the aforementioned Stixcoin, the shop takes both cash and Stixcoin, with items requiring one or the other currency. In the middle stands an ATM that will turn your coin into cash, but not the other way around. Stand close to the cache items, and Zanz talks to you about how dumb Styx coin is. Move closer to the Styx coin items, and an anonymous skeleton pops up from behind the counter and begins to shill crypto like there's no tomorrow. It's not easy to be funny in video games, and reference humor is usually not funny. Video games that try to be funny, especially with reference humor, usually don't work out, but Going Under just does. It perfectly crystallizes the hip tech office culture of today. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is one small step away from being a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. Interestingly enough, that small step away from greatness is what makes Going Under so fun, and that is flimsy weapons that break in about a dozen hits. Weapon durability is never fun in long RPGs where its only function is to inconvenience the player. But in Going Under's 20-minute runs, you're mostly bashing enemies with keyboards and throwing body pillows at them. The flow of combat, which reminds me of a PS2 era beat 'em up, involves a lot of improv. You're challenged by several different enemy types in a cramped, procedurally generated office space. In a genre mostly dominated by open and static rooms, Going Under forces you to crawl under desks and demolish cubicle walls in order to stay alive. When the difficulty ramps up, the rooms are absolutely destroyed by the end of a fight. Explosions, fires, cars, minecarts, and puddles seek to ruin your day and end your run. But as any roguelite should, the game allows you to use these obstacles to your advantage, resulting in a creative and emergent experience not unlike Breath of the Wild. The combat not only changes from run to run, but also from startup to startup. Because each dungeon has its own unique objects, enemies, environmental hazards, and challenge rooms, it forces you to adapt your combat methods. A favorite weapon of yours in Winky Dink won't be available in the mines of Styx, and you also aren't able to date anyone in said crypto mines. But riding to the moon in your Lambo is only possible if you're mining, so you'll have to deal with diamond pickaxes and blockchains. Is it block on a chain? It's a small price to pay for nearly worthless funny money. While there are certainly analogous weapons like the pencil in Joblin and the carpenter's pencil in Styx coin, each startup truly has a unique arsenal of garbage. There's only one office where you'll find the legendary marker sword, so keep your eyes peeled. I'd also like to point out that the game doesn't have difficulty modes, but it does have difficulty modifiers. I prefer this style of difficulty because even my sweet wife, who is not the best at video games, refuses to play any game on easy mode. That includes Cuphead. But even for myself, someone who might be a little bit more experienced, I might just want to modify the game to my liking, like having more iframes when I dodge or increasing weapon durability. This way of doing difficulty is superior and should be done in every game. Unfortunately, indie games tend to live or die based on their aesthetic alone. You can have a fun and inventive game, but if it doesn't wow a potential buyer with cool visuals and banging tunes, it's a wrap. Thankfully, Going Under has both. You know those hipster-esque illustrations used on every stylish website? The ones that replaced stock photos, plastered all over Dribble. Going Under is those illustrations come to life. No strokes like in other cel-shaded games, just simple shapes and bright colors, resulting in extremely readable graphics amidst the chaos. The soundtrack is exactly what you'd expect from a startup turned dangerous dungeon. The perfect blend of lo-fi beats to study to and dance beats to kill monsters to. Later in the game, the dungeons are remixed and the music follows suit. It's safe to say it passes the vibe check with flying colors. The last episode of The Office aired nearly 8 years ago, yet it's still popular amongst people who weren't even alive to see when the first episode aired. Its popularity is largely due to the writing and one Steve Carell, but its lasting appeal falls squarely on the shoulders of its relatability. In the end, it doesn't matter what Dunder Mifflin does, or even that the office culture it draws from is becoming antiquated. You don't even need experience in an office in order to find it funny, although that does help. You just need experience working with people, because for the rest of time, we will have bad bosses, ones that try to convince you that you're part of a family. We will always have the grump that grows on you, or the oddball that you can't tell if they're growing on you. There's control freaks and micromanagers, office crushes, and that guy you can't f***ing stand. It's sort of why so many anime take place in high school. Everyone goes to high school. Going Under is not unlike The Office in that key area. So many people can relate to the frustrations. I've worked with Ikara. I've witnessed that one scene with Tappy and Ray play out in real life. I've never actually fought my project manager to the death in a power struggle over ancient relics, but I can't say I haven't fantasized about it. And I'm sure everyone can relate to your boss asking you to clear out an abandoned startup filled with skeletons. And personally, I can totally relate to the feeling of going under. Several months ago, I was unceremoniously being pushed out of my graphic design job. I had become a scapegoat for poor management, and I was treated like a child the entire time I was there. When it came time to write a resignation letter, I let everything out. I wrote the most scathing and honest account of all of my grievances, and it felt so fucking good. What I ended up sending was a much more tame and professional, yet still honest reason for my departure. It felt good to send, but my original was the real catharsis. It was months of pent-up frustration spilling onto a document that would never reach the person it was intended for. Going Under is that document in video game form. It's the most relatable game I've ever played, and absolutely the most cathartic. It's a game in which you can literally beat up your boss and vent to your coworkers. It's sweet and sad and heartwarming. It transforms your life's frustrations into a playground of mayhem and fun. If anything you've seen or heard sounds familiar, you owe it to yourself to play Going Under. Oh, and it just so happens that the company that I worked for went under a few months after I left.